has had its hands full with several crises, and just generally mentioning was one of the largest economies in the world. They have not really done that much to modernize the German economy, so he really needs to improve the German economy as regards digitalization, fast internet access, digital administration processes, and so on and so forth. So there's really quite a bit to do. On top of all of it, of course, he needs to make a lot of progress as regards, for instance, greening of the economy.
You say there's a lot to get busy with. You've also got pressures that are happening anyway, inflationary ones, global supply crunch. It will, as the coalition claims, Germany continue to be Europe's engine of growth and anchor of stability.
I do expect Germany to overall remain one of the solidly growing, sensibly run economies inside Europe. Overall, the policies that the coalition has agreed on implementing seem likely to make the economy greener and more modern over time. But it is true that there are a lot of challenges, not only inflation in the short run, because we do expect inflation to slow materially next year once the whole issue of supply bottlenecks is fading. But it is quite telling that the government is going to face the challenge of digitalization and greening the economy at the same time as the demographic headwinds are growing quite disproportionately, actually, in Germany compared to other countries in the Eurozone. So, for instance, in the next couple of years, we will see an increasing pace of the decline of the working force, and, of course, modernizing an economy at the same time as the overall labor force is shrinking will be quite a challenge.
But, of course, we also need to talk about the pandemic. Germany's economy has been hit by a fresh wave of COVID cases. That's going to be a focus, isn't it?
Actually, it was quite interesting yesterday when the new coalition was presenting its deal. The future Chancellor Scholz was first off talking about an emergency meeting he and the other future heads of the coalition had with current Chancellor Merkel exactly on this, how to deal with the pandemic. And for now, they do not seem willing to implement additional tightening on top of the so-called 2G and 3G testing and vaccine rules that have been imposed last week and are now gradually rolled out throughout the country. However, if you look at the increased pressure on the hospitalization, on the hospital system in Germany, I would not be surprised if we will see additional restrictions imposed at some point this quarter. And indeed, that's also one of the main worries I have for the near-term economic outlook. We already have seen a slowdown in mobility measures that does indicate there is a slowdown in services activity, and additional measures that might be implemented in the next couple of weeks would, of course, worsen the near-term outlook a little bit further. That's why I think there is an increasing risk of the German economy even contracting in the fourth quarter of 2021.
Earlier this week, German officials were saying it's inevitable that vaccines will become mandatory. What do you think?
Personally, I do think that this might eventually become one of the measures that the new government will take. They're reluctant to do so for now. They do want to increase the pressure on the non-vaccinated by, for instance, having the so-called 3G rules, where you have to be vaccinated, tested, or have to be recovered in order to go to work, use public transport, and so on and so forth. So there is some hope that maybe there will be enough vaccinations to not have to impose a vaccine mandate. However, I do think in the end they might just get there, because there is still the risk of new variants popping up.